Welcome to the McAllister Report. We join John McAllister, top football evaluator, as he shares wisdom and interviews coaches and athletes from around the country. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hello, welcome to the John McAllister Report. I'm John McAllister, and today my guest is the head football coach at Youngstown State University, Doug Phillips. Doug Phillips has finished his third year at YSU. First year in that winter season or early spring, they finished 1-6, I think, 1-5. The next year they won 3. Last year they won 7. So 7, and I think it shows the upward rise to the YSU program. Coach Phillips has worked under Luke Fickell, who just went to Wisconsin, and he's worked under Matt Campbell, who is at Iowa State, and he's also been an administrator and coach in high school. So he's full gamut, and I'm excited to talk with him. We're going to talk about YSU. We're going to talk about the transfer portal. We're going to talk about academics a little bit. We're going to talk about aid, and a lot of different things going on at YSU. So if you would sit back and enjoy my video podcast with Douglas Phillips, head football coach at Youngstown. Coach Phillips, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Getting ready to hit the recruiting trail, I think.
Yeah, we had a team meeting this morning, which, the last team meeting we had was a disappointment, learning we didn't make the playoffs. So we had a team meeting this morning to celebrate our last win against Southern Illinois, to give out our end of the year awards. And Santa came too to our team meeting, and we've had some good kids on our roster. So Santa handed out 4 scholarships to 4 walk-ons this past week.
That's a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a really good deal.
It is.
Okay, and deservingly so. What? How many years will they have left then?
Till they graduate. These kids. I'm proud to say, this year we probably had 7 kids that played every Saturday that either started at walk-ons or were walk-ons that contributed, whether touchdowns, catches, receptions. We had an inside slot, a redshirt freshman, who made the all-newcomer team in the Missouri Valley Football Conference that we gave a scholarship to in August, Max Tomczak, and he had a phenomenal year. So, we're grit U, but I'm also thinking we becoming walk-on U, where kids come here and once they earn it and they're helping us win football games on Saturdays, you got to show them where the money is.
Matt, a quarterback?
What's that? Our quarterback was a walk-on.
But I mean, is Matt, what positions he play?
Who's that?
Matt Tomczak.
Max Tomczak is our inside slot from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, let's talk about what happened 2 years. This is your second year, right, Doug?
Third season.
Going into you completed your third season.
Yeah, well, the first season was that winter season where we played games in
that's right. Okay.
February and March.
Yeah, don't count that. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the last 2 because you showed vast improvement for over that, haven't you?
Yeah, we did go 1-6 on that winter season. Then we went 3-7 last fall, and our kids jumped it up to 7-4 this season.
7-4 and 5-3 in the conference, right?
Yes.
Tell me about the conference.
It's the toughest FCS conference in the country. I can't see why we didn't get more teams than 3. Our conference usually averages 4.76 in the FCS. So I don't know. I don't make those decisions, but when your conference is ranked number 1 and only had 3 teams make the FCS football playoffs, I told our kids we just got to leave no doubt. I guess we can't lose any. I guess we can't lose any games.
Lose any games. That's probably true.
Yeah.
The way it sounds like the SEC.
Yeah.
The SEC, they try their best to break that up, but they can't because it's such a powerful. I mean, they try. Everybody tries, except they can't, and that's.
And I see our league as the SEC of FCS football.
Tell me, it's not Power Five, it's not Group of Five. What is it, Coach? What do you call your level?
Oh, FCS. We play for a championship. Yep, we play. Football championship series, which means we have a 24-team championship series that you play for a national championship every year. The difference between us is, we get 63 full athletic scholarships. Some FCS are non-scholarships. Some FCS might only have 45 scholarships. But in our league, we're fully funded, meaning we get 63, that's the top scholarships you can get in FCS. And between those 63, we try to get 85 scholarship players from that 63.
Right. So some get full rides and some maybe a third, 2/3 or things like that, right?
Yeah. And if they come in with a lot of merit, if they come in with a lot of need, we call that Pell. Some of those kids are on full ride, but the merit don't cost my athletic scholarship. So
right.
The young man comes in he's getting 30% of his scholarship paid for by the university out of the football budget. It only counts as 70%. So now I can take that other 30 I saved on him because he's so smart and be able to give that to another football player. Well, he's not paying a cent. He's on a full ride.
And it's well worthwhile looking into that at YSU.
Yeah.
One more thing on that, unless it's changed, even the Power 5 schools don't have true athletic scholarships. I mean, they get other ways to fund those guys, don't they? Besides true, they can spread that money around a little bit, I think.
I mean, they get 85 full, and that's the max you can be at 85. So they get that 85 full that they can distribute. So that all athletic. They don't have to worry about anything else.
Okay, because I thought sometimes they can give a guy a full scholarship if his uncle taught in a school or university and things like that.
Yeah, there might be things where a young, but he's not. If he gets that, he's not going to be counted in their 85.
Okay.
So he's going to go to school because his uncle works there, dad works at the school.
Right. Why, you guys improved and you've gotten stronger. What were some of the reasons you improved?
Number one, I would say, number one, it started with, we made a change in our strength and conditioning program. And, I brought in a guy, Jimmy Rodenberg, whose dad, John, was the head coach at Moeller. And I spent time with Jimmy at Cincinnati.
Oh, that's where you guys. Okay.
And so, he came in last January and, through the first 3 months of winter conditioning, I saw a change in our kids. Like I knew we had players, but our kids never had an off season. I had four-year players that COVID shut the school down their freshman year. Second year, they had to play a football season.
Right.
So really, it wasn't until this past year that they were able to get in the weight room and get stronger. And the strength increases I saw in March and then going into spring ball, I knew we were going to be, we were going to raise some eyebrows. I think they picked us 9th to finish in our league preseason. Wow. And I knew our kids, worked hard, got stronger, got bigger. We made some acquisitions. We still brought in 25 freshman recruits, but we were able to use the portal as kind of like a free agency to fill some needs, whether it was at linebacker or safety. But the biggest change I saw was the locker room. I'm a firm believer before you can win on the football field, you have to win in the locker room. And I saw our kids, the brotherhood, the love that they have for each other, always being around each other, off the field, on the field. That made it. I saw that in the summer. I knew we could do something this year.
That's really good. And I don't want to have all the Ohio State people after me, but I think that's one of the things that's really helped Michigan because of the locker room, because of the closeness those guys have. And that comes from leadership.
Yeah.
So you just have some leadership now in your program. Right?
Well, yeah. And I don't know if you've watched our games, but we won 3 games. You know, most people, I think ESPN, someone sends me a text. We won 2 games where in the last 4 minutes, we had 1% chance of winning. You know, down 11 with less than 3 minutes, we won.
Yeah.
Down 4 and we won with 5 seconds to go. Down 14 or down, what were we? Down 14, you know, with 7 minutes to go, and we scored 21 points in about 8 minutes to win the football game. So I think that's where you really see the resilience of your kids.
Yeah.
You know, if we did lose a game, the ones we did lose, we lost by 3 to Missouri State, 4 to North Dakota, and we lost 13 to North Dakota State. But what's interesting is I want to see a stat. I have our quality control of what we did in the second half of football games and what we did in the fourth quarter, because that's where I really saw the difference in our team this year. We're able to finish football games.
That's really good. And like you said, you lost it, North Dakota State. Now, there's no such thing as I don't think a moral victory at your level, but that was pretty close to being won. I mean, they embarrassed you last year, I think, didn't they?
They did.
I'm not being funny. They beat you.
They did. Trust me. I'm in South Dakota State, and it makes you when you have those losses. And I always say this, 3 things happen when faced with adversity. You either no mas, I quit, can no longer do it. You make excuses, coping skills. Well, they get more bit, they're bigger. Or number 1, you learn from it. And I think we learned from it. We knew what we had to do starting in January to be able to put a football team on the field that would compete in this league and be able to do it for 11 plus games. And unfortunately, we weren't able to show our skill past the 11 games. But, I think we made huge strides, and I'm proud of what we got coming back.
That's really good. Let's talk about the transfer portal real quickly. Mm-hmm. I know it. People are against it. I think it's okay. I think guys get healthy, but they got to stay healthy. And maybe after 1 year, they're not as healthy as they could be. So tell me about the transfer portal. How does it help you?
Well, it helps us. Number 1, we're not going to live in the portal.
Right.
We're going to find where areas maybe where, we're assessing our roster right now. Where are we at each and every position? And if we feel we need older guys, if we feel we need competition, we brought Jaleel McLaughlin from Notre Dame College, Division II, and putting him in the running room. I don't know if you knew this. He's now the all-time NCAA rusher of all time. Broke that record this year, over 8,000 yards rushing in his career.
Wow.
But you look for, how can you get better at a position, and, what you don't want to do in our league, if I, what I had to do 3 years ago was take freshmen and throw them against men.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. And I feel we have good young football players, and it takes time to develop an offensive line, defensive line. So for us to take a transfer, even at this stage, it would have to show, are they better than what players we have, and will they make it more competition in that room? I don't see us living in the portal this year as much, maybe a position here or there.
Right.
And the ones we brought in, John, they all had ties. They had ties to Northeast Ohio. They had ties to Ohio. They had ties to Western Pennsylvania. Because if you ask any coach, the biggest challenge is you can bring in, let's say you brought in 19 transfers. How hard is it to develop that locker room you got 19 older men coming into that locker room. And when you talk about the coaches, even in our league, they say that's the hardest thing, is to develop that locker room when you're bringing in a whole new group of faces. So for us, it's got to be strategic. We brought in a guy like Marcus Hooker, a safety from Ohio State. Well, guess what? Marcus grew up 20 minutes away from here at Newcastle High School.
Is that right? I didn't realize that.
And so for him to come back closer to home, we picked up a young man from Lafayette that played at Avon, and to get closer to Cleveland. We picked up a transfer from Michigan State, Trent Gillison, who played at Pickerington Central. So for us, it's more about, does it fit with Ohio and Western PA, more so than just going to find a kid out of Texas.
Right. Well, Coach, two things on that. One, and we'll go to another subject, but one is that the transfer, back in the day, I remember talking to Coach Haycock. John was their head coach, and he was trying to build a program, with freshmen on up and stuff, and get some transfers. But I think they were playing North Dakota State or one of those schools. And the one linebacker was a transfer from Iowa. The other linebacker was a transfer from Colorado. He said, John, those guys are men playing against us. Yeah. So but I think it's getting better now. I do like the transfer portal, and still not in love with junior college yet, but transfer portal is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, and for us, I'm still proud to say our starting offensive line and our starting defensive line are all kids that will be 4-year players here. We didn't have to. We developed them. We developed them in the weight room. They got recruited to come to Youngstown State. We threw in one junior college, but for me to pull into junior college, well, guess where the young man's from? Clyde, Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm not taking him if he wasn't from Clyde, Ohio.
Yeah.
Devin Lee is his name. So, for us, and that's probably the only guy on the defensive lines, and I'm proud of that too. In this league, you got to win up front, and you got to develop those guys. So, and it's hard to develop offense. It takes 2 years to develop a high school offensive lineman, but when our offensive line, which we get them all back next year, and we get our whole defensive line back next year, when those guys graduate, we got that next tier ready to step on the field. And we didn't have to throw those guys out there before they were ready.
Huge. Yeah. And the last thing I was going to say on that too, I think kids get caught up in, the names of big schools and stuff, but pro scouts come through your school every year.
Every day.
Pro scouts come through Division II schools every year.
Yeah.
And I said, if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
They are,
And hopefully they're looking for guys too that can build. You don't necessarily want the finished product right now.
No. But we had Andrew Ogletree last year, he came in from Findlay University and played receiver there, played tight end for us. And he didn't make one all-league roster, but guess what? He got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, And so,
Is he playing?
Yeah, he did. He tore his knee, but they kept him. He would have been their 1 or 2 tight end going in. So, we see the pro scouts here, with Jaleel McLaughlin, our running back, they're here all the time. So you can be found wherever you are. And Jaleel's going to play in the Hula Bowl,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
We could talk evaluating talent, how I look at it all day long too, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I think there is a gift to it. Okay. Recruiting 2023, you're pretty comfortable. Of course, you've got to go make house visits and things like that. How many do you think you can sign in December?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Is that fair or not?
December, probably 8 that will sign. I think we have 5 young men coming in this weekend. We'll probably bring another 3 or 4 the following weekend. And, I'll feel comfortable, in this roster. The thing is, I have kids that are graduating in this December. okay, that are starters for me, and they still have 2 years of eligibility left because of COVID.
Yeah.
So for me to, just wait and see, I'm not running off any starters that we have that have helped this program. And I'll let them play here as long as they want.
Yeah, I would assume that would be true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about and we're going to, this goes so fast. It's 18 and a half minutes right now. We've talked. Let's talk about, what do you look for? I'm an assistant coach. I'm going to bring a player into you. We don't talk about, I don't care about position. What do you look for? When you start talking to him, Coach Phillips, what are you looking for? I mean, what are you trying to read and things like that?
Well, it starts with the physical. What gets you to look at a young man? And I told you before, John, I really think when I was even at Cincinnati as a position coach and recruiting, I really love kids that play more than one sport. When I was recruiting at Cincinnati, to go to a track meet and see a young man compete in that track meet, I still remember going to track meet and watching the competitive edge that a Trey Tucker had. Who's at Cincinnati, and I'm like, I don't care how big he is, that young man is a competitor. So for me, or go to a basketball game, I like to see young men that play not only football but compete in basketball, compete in track, compete in other sports. That you can go and watch those sports, and it gives you a better evaluation idea of who that young man is. And I know his ceiling's going to be much higher because, he's going to come to me and he's only going to play football, and we're going to get him in the weight room. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. But to take those tools that he used to be a 2-3 sport athlete, I think, that's number one for me. Then getting to know him, do they love football? And to love football, that means you do everything right on and off the field. If you're not competitive in the classroom, how competitive will you be on the football field? So, I think grades come into it. I think how much he loves the sport, how much he loves to compete. And those are the things I think coaches need to dig and do as much vetting as they can by talking to their coaches, position coaches, the people in school, meeting the parents, bringing them on campus, finding out, because again, it's not a science and we make mistakes all the time, but you really want to minimize those mistakes, because if you can minimize there, you're going to have a good class, and then it's the opportunity to develop those young men for the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay. No, I'm going to not refute because I agree with you. More sports. I've been told by college, these are female coaches, that like kids that play volleyball, they start when they're playing in the 3rd grade or 4th grade. They start playing soccer, but they continue playing and they're pretty good. But by the time they get to their freshman or sophomore year of college, they say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think it could be true in any sport, men or women, boys or girls. And I think the other thing is some of these guys recruit athletes that maybe haven't played that sport, but they're so athletic and that gets excited. It's something new for them. And sometimes those guys are the ones you really look for too. I mean, all these three. I agree with the 2 sports for sure. I agree with that. And for me, I go to games and you just watch a basketball player, watch him on the bench, watch him what he says to the coach. And I think there's a lot to be said.
There is.
And I tell guys that. I tell coaches. And, Coach Moeller, the late Coach Moeller, Gary told me years and years and years ago, he said, tell me things I can't see on video.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much, agreeing with you, there's so much truth to that.
Yeah.
Well, I go to every high school game. I'm always on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the press box, but
no.
And the other thing, grades and love football. Mm-hmm. I really believe if you say the right things to kids and if you listen to them and look at them, I think you can find a little bit how much they love football or not.
Oh, I think you can. And you got to dig. You got to try to pull it out of them.
But I think the other thing is you ask certain questions and they don't love football.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, as soon as they signed a scholarship to Youngstown State or Kent State or Ohio State, Michigan, they're happy. They're done.
Yeah.
You can't keep those guys around. But even big schools, once they get that scholarship, and that's all they need. So they really don't love it.
No, and there's times where the portal helps you in those because we'll evaluate every year, and
Right.
we got to win games. I got to have guys that want to be here, that want not just happy to have a scholarship, but the new portal rules. I don't know if you know this, John, but if I take someone in the transfer portal from a 4-year, and let's say he comes here and he's not good enough, I cannot get that scholarship back. He could sit, he could not come to practice. He could do whatever he wants. I won't get the money back and he will stay on scholarship. So now that evaluation, you better make sure you're bringing the right ones because you're not getting that scholarship back.
Coach, I appreciate your time. And I always love to do it because I respect you. I mean, you've only coached with Luke Fickell. You've only coached with Matt Campbell, and you've been around Coach Tressel. I don't know. You must have some credibility. Maybe that's why I enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, it's a lot. Just been around good people like you, John. This started me and you in 1997, I think. So
was it? And I still on my phone. I still have you. Iowa State Doug. So just so you know.
All right.
Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, John.
Thank you.
Bye.